Chat, it's arguably my favorite videos to make every single week. It's been well over a year that we've been doing this. We've done this well over 52 weeks, which is absolutely insane to me. It is Q&A Sunday time. I know we're not doing this on Sunday, but we've got to do it ahead of time so we can edit it in time for Sunday. Again, chat, we're trying to get ahead so we don't have to like do everything last minute. So I can actually like take time to do other stuff like cast tournaments and stuff. So we got Q&A Sunday. We're going to take about 15 minutes off the clock. We are going to answer questions from both YouTube from last week as well as chat's questions. Obviously, we do this pretty much every single day in my stream over at twitch.tv/Lawler. Come hang out with us every day but Tuesday and Sunday. We pretty much do all our streams are live Q&A, but these are more tailored and specific. So if you guys would like to come ask questions, come hang out with us. Usually start about 2 p.m. Central every single day. But let's jump into it. First question is going to come from Elliot Schmidt and says, what are your thoughts on having a third place match and giving out bronze, silver, and gold medals like the Olympics? After watching the World Championship, seemed like a bit of a letdown that G2 Fury and FaZe don't get anything despite being top 3-4 in the world after a 2-week event. So this is going to sound pretty crazy, but after a 2-week event, they're top 4 in the world, and they got $400,000, $200,000 respectively. Yes, they may not have a cool title in game or a medal to bring home, but they just made $200,000 split 3 ways. They can go buy their own medal if they want. And I know it's not the same and that sounds crazy, but I personally don't think giving out bronze, silver, whatever is all that important. We are here to celebrate who won. And we also, in the past, used to do third place matches. And I hate to break it to you, viewership dropped by like 40% because people don't care. Why do I care about who takes third and fourth and making it this big spectacle when I can find out who wins? That means that the World Championship on Sunday for the playoffs would have been 8 series, and we would have had to wait another hour to figure out who the World Championship winner was. People just don't care. They really don't. We used to do it in our pitch playoff system all the time for seeding purposes, and people just didn't care. We stopped doing it for a reason. It's the harsh reality of it, and I do think it'd be cool to give out medals and stuff, but we are here to reward the people that won. It's just kind of the way it goes, and there's nothing bad about that. So people just don't really want to tune in and watch yet another match and watch the tiebreak, and it's very diminished, and it's a kind of a blunt way of saying it, but we did used to do it in the past, and it was pretty lackluster. So it's the same thing like traditional sports. There's no third place in the NFL, the NHL, any of that kind of stuff. People are trying to figure out who gets to the end, and that's who wins. If you're not first, you're last. A famous person said once. Next question comes from Top Dog. Says, do you think there has ever been a Rocket League player that had RLCS caliber talent, but either had bad timing, undiscovered talent, etc., that never made it into the RLCS? This was actually pretty common in RLCS Season 1. I think recently it was pretty tough, but back in the early days of RLCS, there was a lot of, hey, I'm going to continue to play with my friends rather than making the tough business decision to bring in a sub who is better. I know a handful of people that were like this in the OG days. Like pretty much all of Retrospect had like a 5-person roster, and they could have brought in like Flo and Husky and Covenel and a lot of really talented players from way back in the day that most definitely could have played on a pro team. But unless you knew somebody or unless you kind of got that trial, while you may have been close, it wasn't enough to push you into the top tier. So in the OG days, it happened a ton without naming a bunch of specifics. But as of late, I don't really think so. I think there is a couple players that play for like amateur teams and bubble teams that I hope get their chance, because it's gone on to show that while one player may not necessarily fit into roster, they go to another team that's more supportive or something like that, and they completely pop off. So I think there's a lot of undiscovered talent that, you know, given the right scenario, could be one of those players, but I don't know if there's anybody that like has been undiscovered that hasn't really gotten their chance. Because there's a lot of really good players I still think that could be competitive to this day if they had the effort and wanted to put it in. A lot of really good players that could still be competing if they wanted to put in the time. I think it was Justin or Garrett or somebody who said that. I think I have a press interview coming out, and I think that's one of the things that I've said. I think it was Squishy. It's Squishy. In the press interview, I have the full press conference coming out for NRG soon, and Squishy talks about players that from way back in the day didn't like could still be playing at a competitive level. I'm pretty sure. At least I think that's where I heard it. But yeah, I don't know currently if there's any like one in particular that has that or not. So check out the I have 3 press conferences coming out. There's one for NRG, there's one for Furia, and then there's one for V1. And they're all like 10-15 minutes talking with the players. Good DSLR camera, good audio quality, the best that I can get. And some pretty funny moments for sure. The NRG one starts off really, really funny. Hados Plays has a bunch of questions, it looks like. What do you think is more right, or maybe slightly both are right? Do you think G2 had an easier run in the playoff bracket given they had faced all the teams on their side before, as well as not putting up as much as a fight in the grand finals compared to any other team that faced BDS at the opposite of the playoff bracket? Or do you think BDS were really warmed up, confident, and peaking when they began the grand finals? Saw that Johnny Boy said he'd rank all the teams in BDS the right side of the bracket and G2 in the performance on the final day. So I think that this discredits the efforts of all the other teams there. Number one, I think BDS is really just that good. Warm up or not, G2 is playing 3 series that day. They just played 2, and I'm sorry, but just because a team got done playing a series 10 minutes ago doesn't mean that they're ultimately just going to completely smack a team. That's just not how it works. Both teams had played 2 series that day. They were playing their 3rd, and yes, while BDS, I assume, was going to be the better team in game 1, G2 will warm up into that series and will continue to perform. In this case, BDS is just the better team. On the other side of things, I think you are also discrediting the quality of people trying to make it into the top 8. I think objectively we can say yes, Furia, Moist, and a bunch of the teams on the other side of the bracket are very, very talented. But I think you are also discrediting the NA rosters that also made it to that point. It's like saying, hey, if you take G2 versus Furia or Moist or something like that, would it have been a very competitive match? Most likely. But is G2 still not winning that? We don't know. It's the same thing anytime you get to top 8. Every single one of those teams deserves and has earned to be there. Every single one of those teams has the chance and the potential to win the whole thing if they are playing on that day at their best and they're peaking. So I personally don't think it's okay to discredit the efforts and the results that those teams had. And yes, while it's okay to objectively play favorites and say that this side of the bracket is stronger or not, I think anybody in that top 8, given a certain day, could win the entire World Championship, without a doubt. So I do think that, yes, in your regard, it is a little bit of both, but at the same time, it discredits a lot of the efforts that are put in by the teams and how talented everybody who made top 8 actually is. So that is my perspective on it. Alcatraz in chat says, do you expect them to do what they did season and alternate between regions for LAN with a World Championship in EU, or they add another region to another LAN in 2022-2023? I personally feel that the next World Championship will be held in Europe for 2022-2023. I think Psyonix is going to continue to try to alternate between the 2 top regions in NA and EU every other season. So I don't think we'll get another NA World Championship for another 2 years. And that's what I hope. That's personally what I hope. I think it's cool to alternate those in any way that they can. And whether that entails maybe a new region or a new area entering the conversation of where it could be hosted, I'm also okay with that. Maybe do one in South America, you know, something like that would be really cool. So I don't think it's outside of the question, but I do think there is a lot of things that they can address on how to tackle these things. And I hope they have, I really hope these conversations are being had during the off season and as early as possible, because it takes a lot of time and planning and effort to make these things happen. So I think the benefit of that too is I think it is unrealistic for a lot of people to go to every single World Championship, every single major. I think it's expensive. It's unrealistic to think someone would. So as a fan, if I say, hey, I can't go to this Worlds, but I can go to next year's Worlds, let me start saving up now, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. So unless you're one of those that treats it as like your yearly vacation or, you know, whatever is within your means and your budget. So I would expect that Europe is where the World Championship is held next time. I think there's a lot of cool venues and a lot of cool locations I can do. Maybe we'll do that. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys want me to do like a potential future venue options, and we'll talk about like capacity, location, travel costs. Like we'll do like a spreadsheet on like, I'll do a bunch of like homework behind the scenes. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys want to see something like that, which I just gave myself a bunch of extra homework if you guys say yes, which kind of is a bad idea, but here we are. Lawler, do you think the format for best of 7 should change to best of 5 to save time? In the recent LAN, only one team was able to win a best of 7 after failing to reach 3 wins first. And in the history of RL, only one time has the semifinal or grand final winner won after failing to reach 3 wins first. In other words, 98.4% of the series at 2021-2022 Worlds would have ended in the same best of 5s as otherwise. With all the extra Rocket League being played, Maybe best of 5 would be shorter and easier to fit an event like this, and reserve best of 7s for only grand finals, only or just not at all. Or are 2 series enough to justify a best of 7? So the difficulty, and historically, and I'm glad that you brought like the stats and the evidence to it of the difference, but you're talking, it's more of a mentality thing as well. The intangibles, the things that don't necessarily factor into it, is that people don't realize that when I am in a 2-to-1 scenario, things can change on the mentality. You're also talking in best of 7s, they allow timeouts, and that can also change things. It's more so, while the results may be the most consistent, it is to secure and make sure that the best teams are moving forward. You're talking in a world championship scenario, when you get to the very last event, we are hoping to make sure that the best teams progress forward, and best of 5s do provide a little bit more when it comes to upset potential. While it may not always lean that way, there is a lot more potential to take 3 games versus 4. And I don't know what it is about Rocket League that skews that so heavily, but for some reason, the competitive integrity, as most people deem it as, seems to be a lot better in a best of 7. There's less chance of upsets. There's less chance of anomalies that come through. And your stat shows that, even though the best of 5s and best of 7s, the similarities are there. I think it's tough to, it's like correlation versus causation. I don't necessarily believe that just because teams that were 2-1 went on to win the best of 7 necessarily would have always won in a best of 5 as well. And that's just historically what it's been like in the past. And I don't know if that's changed since teams have gotten more practice against more teams and they play more matches now and stuff like that. But there's still a ton of upset potential, as we've seen even in like regionals and stuff, where teams are having to reverse sweep and everything else. So best of 7s just usually make sure that the best team is moving forward, the favorite team is moving forward, which is good to have a little bit of predictability when it comes to the biggest tournament of the year. You want to make sure that the best teams are moving forward, and best of 7s are just an easy way to do that. And in reality, yeah, it would have been nice to like cut things a little bit short, but you're talking only 4 best of 7s a day is pretty easy. The only day I think they should have done better is Championship Sunday. Should have split it into 2 days. Quarterfinals, which is 4 best of 7s, and then 2 semis and a grands, which is 3 best of 7s. I think that's the only really big flaw to the World Championship format, other than for some casuals it was hard to follow because they changed the format 3 times. But personally, it's the biggest event of the year. You should do it right rather than doing it quick. So I don't have any issues with 4 best of 7s a day. I think that's a pretty easy day. How much do you think next season will shake up with bubble team? Which bubble teams, rising teams, do you think will fight for qualification spots next season? So Mad Lad, unfortunately with this question, I can't give you an answer because I don't know what the heck the rosters are going to be. I have literally no clue what the RLCS at the high echelon teams are going to be with all the roster changes and rumors, let alone the teams that are on the bubble. I have no idea what that's going to look like. Things I can speculate on next season, I would hope that they make some adjustments again to the format and some of the different nuances that come through. Hopefully they continue to change up and simplify the process and make it more accessible and more digestible, because not everybody can watch 18 hours of Rocket League every weekend for both NA, EU, let alone the expansion regions and everything else. So I do think that there is some changes that will have an effect based upon format, the way people play and everything else. But as for like bubble teams, I have no idea what the remaining rosters are going to be at the end of this. We're literally a week in. We've got a long time to go before we figure out what these rosters are going to be solidified as. This will be a better question towards like the start of next season, whenever they announce that. So I got to wait for some more solidification before I give you an actual answer. How could have NRG won Worlds if you say that everyone in top 8 could have won? For me, if they just didn't seem to be at the same level of the rest of the teams. Again, being realistic, anybody who makes top 8, I think, has a potential to win. I think NRG, although playstyle-wise, was overshadowed. And if I was a betting man, if I'm a betting man, no, NRG is not going to win Worlds. But if you're trying to tell me that if NRG finds their form, they're peaking, they're playing really, really well, you're trying to tell me that those teams aren't, or those players aren't capable through experience and through like, again, I don't count it out of the realm of possibility. Do I think the percentage is very low? Yes, but I do think that NRG, on the right day, given the right circumstances, they could win. I think any team in top 8, if you get to that point, has a chance to win it. Do I think the odds are against them? Without a doubt. But I'm not going to count them out just as a team. Like, again, betting man, yes, I'm taking a bet against them 9 out of 10 times. But I do foresee a couple of matches where NRG could have made top 4, and if they can make top 4, why not top 2? Do you think BDS will dominate the next season as well? I don't know if any team will technically dominate. I think teams have only gotten better. You know, Liquid's coming to the scene over in Europe. I think there's a lot of circumstances where it's really tough for it to be so heavily one-sided in a team's favor. But do I think BDS is a top 3 team in Europe next season? Oh yeah, without a doubt. I think they're always going to be in that conversation until something drastic changes. But yeah, I think 100% BDS will continue to be a team that people need to be afraid of. That roster is probably staying together, one of the few that will, and they're just getting started. They've only been together for what, a split and a half. So a lot of potential, and look at the work ethic, look at what Mew's trying to do, giving them homework, efforts they're putting in, the practice, the scrims, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, BDS I think is gonna be extremely competitive. You think Sonic should address blueprints, like creating a currency that players can earn in game to craft them? Yes. Yeah, I actually don't think that's a bad idea. I think a lot of games have a built-in currency system that allow you to unlock things for free, and Rocket League doesn't really have that. The only like currency they provide is if you buy the Rocket Pass, then you can use the credits that you earn in the Rocket Pass to buy another one in the future. But it's still an initial investment provided by the player. But League of Legends has a blue essence. You have Apex Legends that has like credits for leveling up, and then you can use those to unlock legends. You can get free currency to unlock cosmetics. I do think that would be extremely beneficial to Rocket League. I think if Rocket League in Season 8 comes in and goes, hey, by the way, just by playing the game, we're going to give you some currencies and you can use that to unlock items, I think people would be ecstatic. I think 100% they should. I think that's a really good idea because a lot of other free-to-play games do. I think it's a really, really good idea. You can also, through, challenges and rewards, get loot crates, the little capsule things that unlock items for free that you can then trade up. So the fact that other games do both is cool, but I think it'd be cool to allow you to find a way to unlock currency that allows you to unlock blueprints. What the scaling would be on that, how long it takes, that's something that they would have to experiment with. But yeah, without a doubt, I think it'd be a great idea. Last question comes from Sika. Do you have any thoughts on the drama between Shift and some pros coaches that seem to pop up during trade windows, and how important do you think Shift is to the RLCS as a whole? Sika, I've talked about this at length about the importance of Shift and the conversation that it creates. You look at, Sports Center, ESPN, and they have people talk show and talking about certain things. Again, as you get older, there is a book that I've read that is literally, and I quote, "The Art of Not Giving a F." It is, as you get older, realizing the trimming of the fat in your life, learning what to care and put effort into or put weight into in your everyday life. And as you get older, you realize how much you don't care about certain things because they just truly don't matter. Shift is very important for the scene. It is basically the sole thing that creates conversation surrounding the off season and during the trade window and everything else. People are extremely invested in their favorite teams and their favorite players. They want to know where they're going. And being able to theory craft and speculate about that stuff is opened up because of the dirty work that Shift does. My only criticism to Shift, and I've said this to them directly, is the journalistic integrity that they need to make sure that they follow to a T. Shift has had a pretty good track record, and they've gotten a level of respect and have gotten the platform they have because a lot of their reports have been extremely accurate. But when you are a journalist and you are an investigative journalist, you need to make sure that when you are reporting on stuff, you follow all the appropriate channels, even if you may not be the first one to break the story. You need to make sure that you are respectable of all the different aspects that go into it. For example, if there is a player that is being kicked from their team, approach the person that you heard the information or the rumor from. Approach the people that it involves, coach, staff, players, etc. And check all those boxes to be like, hey, is this happening? Is it confirmed? Are we okay to report it? All these different things need to happen in order to make sure that the people involved avoid playing spoiler. Like it sucks that you basically have to do the heavy lifting for some things that maybe not always thought about, but you need to make sure that you need to think short-term and long-term before putting these things out. And sometimes Shift sees the potential to get some impressions and goes boop, and they put it out, and then all of a sudden you have this poop storm that comes from these certain circumstances. And sometimes Shift takes the approach, well, I don't care. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care how you feel about this. I don't care if you like it or dislike it. I'm going to do this either way. And while that is a very good mentality to have as a beat reporter, there is also a way to do it in a way that doesn't step on the toes of certain people. And I agree with Alcatraz. Like 9 out of 10 times, they're great. 9 out of 10 times, there's a lot of things they do where they do get both sides that say, yep, it's fine. Put it out there. Yep, my sources are accredited. And they play pretty accurately. But there is certain things that we can always be better about. And that applies to all of us in life. Every single person, myself, people in chat, Shift, whoever we're talking about, can always strive to be better at the content being provided, the way we approach things, the way that we provide or express information or any of that kind of stuff. So as they continue to make this their sole source of income, they got to make sure that when they do it, they're doing it correctly. And not saying that they haven't in the past. It's just there's some times where they, like, the biggest one that like left a poor taste in my mouth was the I think they leaked Luminosity coming. And like, I get the 15, 16-year-old players that are signing the contract don't care if you leak that stuff. But if I'm Luminosity and that's my big chance to make a big announcement post and all that kind of stuff and garner a bunch of attention, and you leak it ahead of time, I am furious. I am so mad. And maybe, again, I don't know all the details. Maybe they did reach out to Luminosity, and Luminosity's like, yeah, create some drama and create some speculation, and it'll be good. So when we do post it, people will be excited. But again, certain things like that, where you gotta think big picture and talk about that stuff and be like, maybe you should approach Luminosity and say, hey, we hear this thing is happening. We want to talk about it. Is there a way that we could do this? Like, if I talk to an org owner and say, hey, I know you guys are making roster changes, this and that. Is there a certain way or phrasing you would like me to say this to where I can still get coverage on it without speculating or pushing things? Like, how can we drive conversation rather than spoiling a moment? You know, like certain things like that. Because at the end of the day, I think that's what Shift is so good about, is they cause conversation. They cause people to start discussions and become invested more in the space, in the players, in the scene, in the different rosters, which is really, really good for our scene. So I think Shift is really, really important. But the drama happens because the way they handle it may not always be the most professional. So again, everybody's striving to be better, Shift included, myself included, even like Rocket League Esports. Like, everybody is trying to be better and make sure that this process becomes more professional in any way that they can. So I think it's important, but again, it happens. That is going to do it for today's Q&A video. If you guys obviously enjoyed the content, we do this every single week. Feel free to continue to leave your questions down below, and we'll keep continuing to do this. The more you guys watch them, the more you like it, the more you subscribe and all that kind of stuff, the more we can continue to do it. So whether it's here or over on the stream, twitch.tv/LAWL every day but Tuesday and Sunday, these are arguably some of my favorite videos to do during the week, just because it's always cool to see what things are on your guys' mind and trying to provide my own insight. So that is going to do it for today's video. As always, like, comment, subscribe. You guys know what to do, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.